Hi, it's Jennifer from Shabby Fabrics. This is the July table glitz, and of course we chose a patriotic theme. We have beautiful flags for our placemats, and we have some pretty stars for our coaster. Now, if you've been watching our table glitz series, the assembly is going to be the same way with regard to you have the front, you have your back. Anything that is applique, if you're buying the kit, is pre-fused laser cut for you, so you can jump right into the fun. We have a beautiful thread set, and I'll be sewing with you today with a dual thread director, 2 spools of metallic thread, a twin needle, and I'm just excited to show you how amazing they perform together on the Bernina, which has the coolest spool pin. I want to show you this it's really fun. Bernina has thought through this. Isn't that so slick? Because sometimes I've lost my spool pin on other sewing machines. Here, I can't lose it, and I love that when they help me be successful. So we'll be getting to the fun part of the stitching. Just know that thread set, just get it. It just adds the sparkle and the glimmer that you want, especially for the 4th of July. Download your pattern. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click on the link below. That'll jump you to the free download page. If you're watching on the Shabby Fabrics website, you'll want to go to the home page. There may even be a link in the description of the product, but just in case there's not, on the home page of our website at the very bottom, you can always click on free downloads. You're looking for the table glitz for July. Be sure to print those out, tape all your pattern pages together. And if you're buying the kit, we've got all your stripes cut out for you, your stars are cut out for you, and ready to go. So you have your white field background. And just as you would expect, as we do with all of our patterns at Shabby, we will number the position at which the fabric needs to go down, so you make sure that the layering is correct to give you the proper presentation at the end. So stripe 1 goes down, followed by the blue field. The third piece is the second red stripe, and then followed by the 3rd stripe. So that's not different than anything we've done before, and that's why I love to use the light box. I can see through that just like boom. This is the Daylight 2 light box, the Wafer 2 light box by Daylight, I should say. I use this light box. I can't tell you how often I'm using this light box these days, just to check my alignment and check my placement. I'm using it more and more frequently than I thought I actually would. So once you have all your pieces down, we can just go quickly do that, so you can see that if you're joining us for the very first time. And again, obviously, because we are well into our series, if you are joining us for the very first time, I encourage you to go back, watch the other table glitz, maybe even the very first one, so you can see in more detail how we're setting up. It's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's anything that's not pretty intuitive here. You put down your second piece, followed by your 3rd, your 4th. And at that point, what we recommend that you do is don't stitch those down yet. Put that aside for now. You'll have your backing piece. I'll go ahead and turn that off. You'll have your backing piece and your fusible fleece. Put that fusible fleece on the back of your backing. Then you'll have everything right side together. Sew around, leave an opening, and turn through. Close that opening by just tucking that under, and that's when you'll start stitching around. Then we added the quilting. The reason that we do that is it quilts your placemat at the same time versus stitching everything down before you put the backing on. So hopefully that makes sense. I want to show you how to do the placemats. This has been really fun with this one, or excuse me, the coasters. Let me put that aside. We've done this in a couple previous months. In order to make this simplest, we just did the front and the back, same fabric out of the blue here, with our fusible fleece, and went all the way around. And now I'm just going to separate, make a couple snips here. And you're going to be covering that up with your white stars. So don't be afraid to make a fairly good size opening so that you're not struggling to turn it through. We always recommend whenever you're turning through to snip. You might even want to trim your seam allowance depending on if it's a real tight turn. I do go in and I kind of shave off that 1/4 inch seam allowance to say be maybe an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just so there's not as much bulk turning in those seams. I'll turn that through. We have a really fun star kind of design on our star. Hopefully I'll bring that to the overhead camera where you'll be able to see that. This is where I love this clover. Just watch me just go around this shape. It's amazing how it just, in one fell swoop, turns everything through so beautifully. I love that. Let me just take that real quick to my iron. I love my little Panasonic cordless iron because I don't have that cord that's always knocking everything off my table. Get that going again here. On the star, what we found, I wanted to see you with the overhead camera, hopefully you can see that. We have some really pretty lines of gold. Well, in order to hit those just so, we recommend that you use your light box. Go ahead and take your fusible off the back. Let's turn that on, probably about right like that. Got our diagram, and I can see now those lines. I'm going to draw those on because I don't want to miss those lines. Now, don't use a friction pen because we're going to iron that onto here once the lines are drawn. Therefore, I'm using a micron. I think this is 005. It's a light brown. I just need to get the line on there enough to see it, but don't get in there real aggressive because this does not erase. This is a permanent pen. So I'm going to use my small ruler, and I'm just going to assist myself with drawing nice straight lines and see how we can work with the light box, with the ruler in conjunction with my micron. So I can see where I'll be sewing. I love tools that help me be accurate. There we go. Fantastic. This will just assist you when you get ready to stitch down with gold. And just like before, you know, obviously we're now stitching this on and we're quilting our coaster at the same time. Fantastic. So we complete that, repeat that process for all of our coasters. We've got our placemats together. Now this one's completed. This one's been stitched down, but this one, I'm going to be sewing the rows here. I don't know if you can see this from up above. I've got a row of gold here and a row of red glitter here. Notice my threads are red, white, blue, and gold. I have red on this side and gold on this side. I have gold in this field as well. And we stitched around our coaster with our beautiful blue. If you wanted to put blue in those lines instead of gold, pick that instead. This is where, not that I'm not having a great time already, but this is like the most fun for me right now, is dealing with this beautiful thread, getting to work with this beautiful thread. I've got a dual thread director. I've loaded that onto the machine, as you saw with the Bernina. It has a self-installed spool pin that basically pops up. If you have a different machine at home, then you just insert your spool pin. It'll fit right on there. It's got a little, it just tightens. Once you put your metallic spools on, make sure they spin freely. You don't want them so bound that the thread can't float easily off the spool. I'm using a dual needle, a double needle, a Schmetz metallic double needle. Whenever you thread a double needle, you're going to pull your threads through your machine at the same time equally, and then simply thread one color on the left and one color on the right. Now, what's fun about this particular project is, what color, let's see, what do I have? I have gold on my left, red on my right. So I'm going to start in this row because I want my white to have the gold and the red to have this. And I'm just going to chug along here. I'm going to stop. I will pivot, and that's going to put the gold right back where I want it to be. I'll stop and pivot here, continuing. I'll stop, and then I'll come back here and finish up. Watch how beautifully the Bernina sews through this fabric with the dual thread director and the twin needle. And I've seen it so beautifully in other machines as well, so I don't want you to think this isn't possible with other sewing machines. It absolutely is, because I've done it. I just love the way, though, that the nice wide 9mm foot here allows me to see more readily what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to back tack, back stitch. Then at the end, you'll just take that, pivot around. This still puts my gold on my left, and it puts my red on the right. Begin again. Again, I will lift up, pivot, come back, start the next row. Look how beautiful this is. Just look at the glitz and look at the glamour. I love that part. Of course, I always think of gold metallic for 4th of July, and you're just gonna trim those where you went down the next row. So, super fun project. If you haven't done the table glitz and you haven't jumped in, this may be a super fun one. Don't be afraid to try that metallic thread. Don't be afraid to use that dual thread director and also the dual metallic needle. Side note, when I do use metallic needle, I do reduce my tension. So before you start on the project, please, please, please test out your tension on some scrap fabric, and once you know it's just right, then you can jump in the project. So thanks for letting me share Table Glitz in July with you today.